represented in arbitrations, and he's done a fine job with that. So I want to welcome Tony McKinney.
I think it's afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. I'll make my comments very short. First of all, on behalf of the Industrial Relations Department, I want to thank the MVS director, assistant director, and all of you for working closely with me on educating me on the things that need to be done within your craft and things that we can do at the national headquarters level to enhance your quality of work life. As Mike has said, we've worked very closely with all the crafts. That's one of the things I want to bring about, because we're one union. We may have different crafts, but we're one union, the American Postal Workers Union. And we have to work on behalf of all the people out there in the country. And one of the things that I'm looking to do after we finish this national convention, I just want to say it's been a whirlwind for me because of all the meetings we've been to. But even during that period of time, we've done some good things. We've had some national cases certified for arbitration. And I think that we're certifying more cases now than has been done in the past. Not only are we doing it in the regular arbitration at the national level, but also Article 19. But I do want to share something, and this is one of the things I want you to understand that we're trying to do. The Postal Service has come to me and wanted to do some reviews. Normally when they come to me about reviews, they talk about doing clerk reviews. And what they're trying to do is find a way to enhance their ability to get their bonuses at the end of October or beginning of October so they can reduce the cases. But what I've shared with them is unless we can deal with the legacy costs and MVS and maintenance, we can't do any reviews. Because what they're doing is what I call not necessarily the low-hanging fruit, but those cases that are not as costly to them. And they want to do all these reviews, and then they get what they want, and then they go away. So I've challenged them that if we're going to do reviews, and I've talked to the maintenance craft director and to Mike, and I asked them to support us on this here, that if you want to do that, when you come in to do the clerk reviews, you send someone there to do the motor vehicle reviews, you send somebody there to do the maintenance reviews. Not only do you send them in with a pocketbook able to pay. We want to be able to get money out of what you owe us. And I'm also looking at trying to reduce how long it takes to get some of these cases to arbitration. They've been listening intently on what I'm trying to explain to them. The reason they're in the situation they are because once they violate the contract, particularly in motor vehicle and maintenance, they have a tendency to try to bury that case under everything else for years and years and years. The legacy cost is what catches up with them. So when they finally get ready to look at the case, they got a $100,000 case that was actually a $20,000 case when we started out. Now, nobody wants to be responsible for paying out that type of money, or worst case scenario, you go into the millions. So I'm trying to get them to understand there's a better way and it's a better widget. And what we can do is work towards trying to shorten that legacy cost, because if you violate the contract, accept your responsibilities, pay our members what they're due, and let's start from there and go forward. And these are the things that we're going to be working on after this convention. As I said, we did a lot of travel beforehand. We still managed to keep things and at the same time learn some of the nuances of being a national officer. But I can assure you, when we get back in the headquarters starting in the middle of August, we're going to put our head against the grindstone, and we're going to push very hard to make the Postal Service do those things that are right, which is meet on these cases, resolve the issues on behalf of our members, and stop running from the legacy costs that you created, because it won't go anywhere. It's going to be there until we resolve those issues. But more importantly, and this is what I'm sharing with everyone, my goal is to ensure that the U.S. Postal Service do three things: respect the members, respect the leaders in this union, and respect our contract. And that's what we'll be working on. And I want to thank y'all and wish y'all a great convention. And as Mike said, I look forward to working with him, his team, and all of you out there over the years. He said he want to talk about jazz. I listened to John Coltrane last night. And is that the jazz? No, that's not the jazz. There's some concerns about jazz. And when I took office, I realized that before you start making changes on something, first you got to understand what it is you have there. I inherited the jazz process. I looked at it, I analyzed it, and I realized that we actually have something that's very beneficial to us. However, there are some nuances in there. There are some problems. I won't sit there and tell you that there's no problems. Anytime you create a new product, you're going to have a period of time breaking in, trying to work out the nuances, and that's where we are. Some of the problems that we addressed and has already been addressed is the fact that the scheduling for the motor vehicle is cumbersome because you have to do that and you have a wider area. We're working on trying to address that. I work with staff talking about how we can work that out. We have a plan of action for that. But I think the most egregious thing that many of the NBAs were telling me, and I kept saying, you got to give me something in there with some substance, because I can hear what you're saying, but until I can find some way to see where it's coming from, is the ability for the Postal Service to possibly know where how the arbitrators are, so they can set up the arbitration schedules. They told me that over the last 2 or 3 months. I've met with Joe. He actually was religious about calling me on that, because he felt that they were trying to pick their arbitrators. But we could never pinpoint how they did that. So the other day I had a staff meeting with IT, and I talked to Manjusha for 2 or 3 hours. And I said, Manjusha, it's a double blind. Explain to me how it's a double blind, and they may have a chance to do it. So she started lining things out to me. I said, tell me the process to go. She says, well, we send the letters out asking for the arbitrator dates. They have this on a calendar. It's 4 trunk calendars to a date. I said, okay. I said, so what happens to those letters when the arbitrators send them back in? Because Jazz belongs to us. It does not belong to the Postal Service. They have no access to the back end of Jazz. What they have the ability to do is click just like the NBA is on the front side. So what she told me, she says, well, we send it in to the arbitrators, and the arbitrators send it back to us. I say, do they send it anywhere else? She says, well, they send it to the Postal Service. And I had a light come on. I said, okay, if they're doing what the NBAs are saying, that's how they'll get around the system. So it's not a Jazz problem. None of the problems that we have is the Jazz system. It's a human problem. And the human problem we're going to have to work on. So once we got some insight on where it's coming from, I've already made a call to Malacca, and I've already sent an email to, I won't say Patrick, but to Lino about the situation. They want the project to work, because in the way Jazz works, people don't realize it actually is working. How does it work? You're supposed to do the 90 days out, do pre-arbs, if you have a partner on the other side to contact you. In the Northeast and some of the Eastern region areas, you don't have that communication, so it's a communication gap. But if you did have that communication, the process means that you will pre-arb 30, 60, 90 days out, then you go to arbitration. So if you were fortunate enough to sit down with management and pre-arb 120, 200, 300 cases in a 90-day window and only did one case, that's actually a success rate, because only one case you're paying $3,000 for. The rest of the cases are being pre-arbed. You're getting your members what you want, you're getting it earlier, and you're not going to arbitration. So I looked at some of the records and found that we have some people that are working it very well. They're pre-arbing 1,800, 1,900, 2,000 cases. They're only going to arbitration 5 or 6 dates. That's a good thing. Most people say, well, you're not going to arbitration, but no, it's not. The intent is to reduce arbitration. Some people say, well, we're not going to arbitration as much. But if you have 3,000 cases that you either pre-arb, took out of the system, or they're no longer in the system, and you only went to arbitration 6 times, 7 times, it's actually a success. It's more successful than going to arbitration 3,000 times, because the cost is cost prohibitive. So some of the problems we got in the Jazz system, none of it is the system in itself. It's human problems. Most of it's on the Postal Service side. We recognize that. We're working on trying to resolve that. I have meetings when I go back to point out a letter that I received identifying that a manager made a statement that we believe, even though we can't prove what her intent was, but in my mind it implied they were asking, do you want to know who the arbitrator is? Well, if that's the case, the easy fix for that is they don't get the letters anymore. They only come back to the Jazz analysts. We put them into the database. They don't have to see them. So they don't need that information. However, if they're saying we would like to have a copy, I'll be glad to give a copy to Malacca or Patrick Devine as a total package, but not to the LRC Center. So what I'm sharing with you about Jazz, we have some problems there, but it is not a problem that you throw the baby out with the bathwater. More importantly, the Postal Service wants to take the process back, because right now, even though it appears it's a 60-40 relationship, that's 40% more input than we normally get. The other thing that I want to share with you, and it's more important than probably anything else, is the Jazz system has to have continuity over 5 regions. One of the things I did find out as becoming the new industrial relations director, we have a lot of processes out there, but it's done differently in each region. Whereas an institution, we have to have continuity and a standard operating procedure on doing things. So if a manager goes from the western region and transfers to the northeast region, he doesn't or she doesn't come in with their processes that they did in the western region and try to impose on the way they did in the eastern or northeast region. They should come in the process, if it's dealing with Jazz or other processes that we do, should be the same, no matter where we do it in the country. So the Jazz process has some unique value to it. It lets us see where our trouble spots are. It lets us identify where we have high volumes with grievances at. It lets us identify what kind of grievances we're getting in so that we can target those places and make some inroads into it. But it is not fair to try and take the system out just because we're having certain problems. I'll use this analogy. Buy a brand new car today, and I guarantee you the first year you're going to take it back 3, 4, 5 times. Off the assembly line. That's the history of new cars. Anything new is going to have bugs until you work it out. But you don't get rid of it unless it's absolutely they can't repair it. This is repairable once we get the people in place. And I would ask that you give us an opportunity. Give me an opportunity. I've been in office 7 months. And pretty much everybody that calls me about a jazz problem, even the ones that are my biggest detractors, have to acknowledge, once you tell me what the problem is, I get it fixed. Now that I've figured out 2 additional problems, they will be resolved also. So I'm appealing to you to understand that there's a resolution going around. If that resolution passes, you can't piecemeal jazz. You can't say, well, if one region wants to be in, the other region doesn't have to be in. It doesn't work that way. The Postal Service is not going to agree to have them doing several different processes. They're going to do one or want to do one. So in actuality, if you make that resolution pass, you're actually doing away with the process as a whole, and you're giving 100% of control of the system back to the Postal Service. Last but not least, I am raising sand with the Postal Service, and I've challenged them. If we're paying 50% of the arbitration costs, we want 50% of the ability to schedule the arbitrators. And what that means is right now they think that they own the process. I see nothing in the contract or any contract we have with them that says that they are the administrators of the scheduling. It says it's supposed to be a 50-50 because we split 50% of the cost. And I'm challenging them, if we can't split 50-50, then they need to pay 100% and you can do whatever scheduling you want to do. But we want to be a part of that process. That's what I want. Now, I'm going to argue my point. I'm just going to be very candid. I came here and I'm on a mission to represent our members. I have no illusions about being friends with Postal Service, having them like me or care whether they call me. All I care is if they follow that contract, and if it's in the contract, in a manual, it's in an MOU that we signed, they need to follow it and do what's right by our members. And until they do right by our members, they can go to hell. That's where I'm at. So jazz works. I need y'all's support. Give me a chance to fix it. And I'm a man of honor. If I can't fix it after I do all these things that's been shown to me, I'll be willing to give it up. But don't take something that is ours, that we have control, and the Post Service wants it back because they want 100% control, and give it to them. Do not give them that gift. So with that being said, here's the key. In representing our members, what I believe, my core intent and my core beliefs, they're going to respect our members on that workroom floor. They're going to respect our local leaders and our national leaders, and they're going to respect the contract. And I have no problem suing the living bejesus out of them if they don't want to, and they already know that. They asked me why did I go to litigation before I talk to them. I said, because you're not talking, it makes any sense to me. I have no desire to sit there and play these footsie game with them. We don't have the time to do that. We have to fight for this union. We got to fight for our right, and we got to stand up and be leaders, and leaders don't mind taking the hard road, and that's what I'm going to do. So with that being said, thank y'all for letting me talk. Where you at, brother? And y'all have a wonderful time.
The reason that I asked Tony to make a reference of the JASS system, and the acronym of JASS is JASS, and it's dealing with the arbitration schedules. And there's a resolution on the floor, so at least I wanted you to hear from the Director of Industrial Relations on what his position or what his opinion of JASS and the resolution. I'm going to turn it back to Javier.